Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon to talk about some new data. Thank you to the ladies behind me for inviting us to come and speak to you all about this today. My name is Hannah Hallberg. I'm Policy Liaison with Policy Matters Ohio, and we're presenting some new information about public sector work in the state. Jobs in public administration or the public sector are extremely important to the economy. They deliver services that all Ohioans need. When unemployment is high, these jobs become more important because struggling families have a greater need for good schools, social support, public transportation, libraries, and other services that are provided by the public sector. Further, when unemployment is high, a more stable public sector prevents a deeper downward spiral in our economy. The services that public workers provide benefit all Ohioans. In addition, Ohioans from every demographic group work in public sector jobs. More than 700,000 Ohio workers are employed in the public sector, including more than 300,000 men and more than 400,000 women. While more than 15% of all Ohio workers are employed by the public sector, some demographic groups are more likely to be found in these positions. Compared to that 14.4% of all workers, 17.6% of adult women and 18.5% of African American workers and nearly 20% of African American women workers work in public administration in Ohio, and that was during the years 2008 to 2010. Nationally, these percentages are even a little bit higher than those found in Ohio. 16.9% of all adult workers, 19.9% of adult women, and 21.2% of all adult African American workers worked in public administration during that same 2008-2010 time period. And in our written comments, we provided a chart with the raw numbers for each of these demographic breakdowns, as well as the percentages for those particular populations. For this data, public administration is defined as working in the occupation title of public administration or as working in the public sector. We used current population survey data from the U.S. Census to determine how different demographic groups are distributed among different occupations and sectors. We pulled the 3 years of data, the 2008 to 2010, so that we would have a large enough sample size for the state. Restricting collective bargaining is likely to lead to lower wages for some public sector workers. Such wage reductions would hurt Ohio's economy by reducing spending. While all demographic groups are likely to be harmed by such reductions, there's reason for concern that many African American and female workers may suffer disproportionate harm. I'll now introduce Representative Sandra Williams, who will give a few comments on this new data.
Thank you. Well, first, I'd like to recognize the many members of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus as well as the Women's Caucus for not being here today. Many of them have committee hearings today as well as other commitments in the community, so they were unable to be here, but they do support this press conference and working families. African Americans are crucial to Ohio's economy. With a population of over 11.5 million, African American buying power contributed to over $33 billion to Ohio's economy. That represents an increase of over $9 billion from 2004. Not only is the African American economic impact on Ohio's economy crucial, those who work in public sector positions are extremely important as well. The changes proposed in Senate Bill 5 will have a significant effect on working families. Over 18.5% or 82,591 African Americans are public sector employees. 70% of African American households are single-family households. Restricting the ability to negotiate employment contracts is a significant concern and has caused many to worry about job safety and the economic impact on your family. This has translated into many people holding back on things that they would normally do, like take vacations, put their children into extracurricular activities for the summer, and different things in the community. For the state of Ohio, this will translate into economic loss, and these workers may no longer have extra money to stimulate our economy through going out to eat or paying for necessary repairs. For the African American community, lower salaries and benefits will be particularly distressing on the top of, because of the foreclosure crisis, which has really impacted the subprime lending in minority communities. This will be a loss of, the economic loss of 15.3%, and the education system that public sector employees contribute to it as well. So we'd just like to say we hope that the Republicans here at the State House will reconsider Senate Bill 5 because of the damaging impacts it will have on our community and to Ohio as well. I'd like to now introduce Nancy Garland, who is the president of the Women's Caucus.
Thank you. And I think you can see by the statistics and the discussion before that we can see that Senate Bill 5 will have a disproportionate impact on women and minorities. As the statistics indicated, women are more likely to be in public sector jobs. And public sector employees provide the vital services and essential functions needed to position Ohio for success in these difficult, tough economic times. And women, more than their male counterparts, find themselves working for the public sector as teachers, especially, and nurses, or in any number of other occupations. So if we strip away the collective bargaining rights or the ability to strike in the name of balancing the state budget, I really feel that this is irresponsible and will ultimately be very devastating to the middle class. In a time when Ohio should be focused on creating good-paying jobs in growing sectors of the economy, Senate Bill 5 will only move us farther away from the economic recovery and prosperity. And again, it is amazing to me when we know that jobs is the #1 issue in this state, and what we need to do, that the other side of the aisle is bringing forward a bill that I think not only will not create jobs, but actually it will mean the loss of jobs, and especially for women and minorities. So I feel that this is something that should not move forward because, again, we need to create jobs, not stop jobs. And I'd like to introduce next State Representative Nikki Antonio, who is a member of the Commerce and Labor Committee.
Good afternoon. As Nancy said, my name is Nikki Antonio and I serve on the Commerce and Labor Committee. I also represent House District 13, which is in Cuyahoga County and includes Lakewood and the west side of Cleveland. We've heard the stories of our hardworking public sector workers this past few weeks, and we're here today to sound the alarm on the disproportionate negative effects that Senate Bill 5 would have on working women and minorities. It's ironic that we're embroiled in a public policy battle that would strip away workers' rights to bargain so close to the 100-year anniversary of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, which was one of the most deadly factory disasters in American labor history. 146, mostly young women immigrant workers, perished in this tragedy, where they were trapped inside behind locked doors, locked by the owners of the factory when a fire broke out. The doors were locked to keep them in their workrooms and keep them working at all costs, including their lives. This horrific event was the trigger for the International Ladies Garment Workers Union to push for comprehensive worker safety and compensation laws made possible through collective bargaining. Today, Ohio would turn back the clock on working women with Senate Bill 5, lock the doors by taking away their right to bargain for safe working conditions, fairness, and a living wage. Attacks on employees' right to collective bargain directly threaten working women and the public services they provide. Consider the following statistics from the National Women's Law Center. State and local government and teaching depends on working women. Women make up 51% of state government workers, 60% of local government workers, 40% of those workers are covered by a union contract. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, 81% of elementary and middle school teachers are women, and 85% of our special education teachers are women. Women workers who belong to unions earn more. This is good for their families and good for our communities. In 2010, women had higher median earnings, but removal of their right to bargain would lower their working wages. Latina women in unions earn 48% more than their Latina counterparts who are not represented by a union. And Latina women have the lowest earning capacity in the segment of women workers. Black women earn 25% more than their counterparts not represented, and being in a union also increases the likelihood that a woman has access to health care, which is an important component that we often don't talk about. Taking away collective bargaining lowers the median income levels of working women. Many, as we've mentioned already, are their sole family wage earner. Women workers in unions experience a smaller wage gap. We talk often about the glass ceiling that women have such a difficult time breaking through. Women continue to make anywhere from 75 to 88 cents for every dollar that men make. The 88 cents represents the high end for a woman in a union job, where collective bargaining has reduced some of the disparities. Senate Bill 5 will reinforce the disparities of the past. In Ohio, there are 114,444 teachers, of which 85,324 are women. That's 74%. While the number of superintendents is 781, of which only 152 are female and only 34 are minorities. I bring up these statistics because if we look at Senate Bill 5 and its suggestion to take away collective bargaining, then those superintendents are going to be making the decisions for those women and minorities about their pay, about their ability to access safety issues, about the number of children in their classrooms. Public sector has brought more parity to wages between whites and blacks. Stephen Pitts from the Berkeley Labor Center in a March 7, 2011 report says that unions and civil service protections have played a significant role in reducing wage disparities. Senate Bill 5 will eliminate the objective and predictable pay system that has removed and prevented gender-based pay inequities from public education. In essence, superintendents will largely control the pay and retention rights of a mostly female teaching force with few collective bargaining rights. This is a giant 27 leap backwards to a time when high school teachers made more than elementary school teachers, male teachers made more than female teachers, white teachers made more than black teachers. This is why we have collective bargaining to begin with, to eradicate these kind of inequities. And getting pregnant was tantamount to losing your job. When gender bias infiltrates discussions about pay and job retention, the discrimination lawsuits will surely follow. We cannot turn back the clock on rights, fairness, and the gender wage gap. We must not lock the door on thousands of Ohio women who serve the citizens of Ohio. They are our teachers, our nurses, our caregivers, and others, to let them fend for themselves and their families and dash their dreams of joining the middle class. Waging this attack on workers and their rights through Senate Bill 5 will not solve the budget woes of Ohio. Senate Bill 5 will not close the gender gap. Senate Bill 5 will weaken our middle class, take away the years of work towards the elusive goal of pay equity and a level playing field for our families and our communities that women have so been longing to achieve. I want to thank you, and at this point, we're open for questions.
Short of killing Senate Bill 5, which doesn't appear to be an option at this point, what would you propose, how it would be changed to deal with your issues?
The bill should be killed.
And that's the only option?
That's the only option, I believe, at this point. You know, once again, I know you're probably tired of hearing this right now, but it's not broken, so it doesn't need to be fixed. I live in a community where everything from collective bargaining to going to arbitration has served us well, both on the sides of the workers sometimes and on the sides of the municipality sometimes. So I think that we could talk about where we go from here in 2011, but I do not believe that Senate Bill 5 is